What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. This is the mulch I use for my tomatoes. And this is the mulch I use for my lettuce. And the difference between the two could make or break your harvest. Let's go! It seems like there are always new gardening styles and techniques that go through waves of popularity. Many years ago, it was the back to Eden method, which is all about using wood chips in the garden. Throughout that trend, people were constantly saying that wood chips won't work in the garden. They rob the nitrogen from the soil because they need that nitrogen in order to break down the wood. And if you mix wood chips into the soil, then they would be right. But when you layer wood chips, they don't rob nitrogen from the soil. They actually help build your soil over time dramatically. Let me show you a spot right here where I haven't used wood chips. So you can see my soil right here. It's sandy. We just had some rain, so it has a little bit of a dark color to it, but look how sandy it is. It's just all pure sand, which isn't horrible to grow in, but this is, just all sand. Let me bring you over to a spot where I've been putting wood chips down and layering them for years. Check out this section over here where I've been laying wood chips down. Come in here. I'll show you the difference it has made in my soil. So we'll dig into the soil just like this. And you'll notice how thick this wood chips are and how much they've affected the soil. Already we're starting to get to some sand, but it's all still wood chips too. As we keep digging and keep digging in here, you'll notice it has greatly affected my soil. And I'm not to my regular soil, to the sand, till we get down this deep. Meanwhile, all this up here is some nice quality humus. The wood chips are slowly breaking down. Wood chips have nothing inherently wrong with them when you use them the correct way. When you take your wood chips though and you mix them into the soil, then the wood chips need to be broken down in a composting process. They are carbon, so they need nitrogen from the soil when you mix it in order to create that composting process and in order to break down the wood. But when you layer wood chips on the surface of the soil, something completely different happens. Every action has a reaction. And maybe it's not the thing, the wood chips, that is causing the problem. It's just the action, the way we're using the wood chips that are giving us the bad reaction. But switch how we're using them, switch the action, we'll get a completely different reaction. When we layer wood chips on the soil, they break down in a completely different way. Take your wood chips, mix them into the soil. They're broken down in a composting process, and that definitely will give your soil a stomachache. But take your wood chips, lay them on the surface of the soil, and it's the fungi that come in and decompose your wood chips. They convert the wood chips into humus and release that secret ingredient that can heal any soil, humic acid. It doesn't happen overnight, but give it a little bit of time and nature will amaze you. You might be thinking, that's well and good for my garden area to lay wood chips down, but can or should I use wood chips in my raised beds? Well, you can if you want to, but what I mainly like using the wood chips for are for my perennials, with one or two exceptions that I'll get into. For my beds like this, my raised beds with a lot of annuals in them, what I actually prefer to use is diced leaves as a mulch. The reason I love using diced leaves as a mulch for my annuals is because, like wood chips, they're free and accessible. But unlike wood chips, if you mix a few of them into your soil, then they won't really rob the soil of nitrogen. Yeah, if you took like heaps of leaves and mixed them all into your soil, then that could cause a little bit of a problem. But if you have some leaves left over from the previous year as a mulch in your bed and you just mix a few of them into the soil, they won't be a problem. In fact, it could actually be a super beneficial thing, because when we mix some leaves into the soil, then the worms like to come in and eat those leaves. They're like a favorite food of the worms. The worms eat the leaves and convert that into humus. When it comes down to it, the worms, they can't eat wood chips, but they love the leaves. Another advantage I find of using diced leaves as a mulch for my annuals is when one of our annuals finishes up or a spot opens up. So say we need to plant carrots or something in this section. What we do is we can take the leaves and just bring them back to expose the soil. Just push the leaves off to the side, just like this. Then we can take something like our fertilizer, mix it into the soil, and then get ready to plant our carrots. The thing is, if we use something like wood chips, then we really need to make sure that we remove all those wood chips and don't mix any into the soil, or it could cause that soil stomachache. So when there's sections that I plant multiple crops in, or there are multiple rounds of crops that go in spots, like in my raised beds mainly, I really prefer using a diced leaf mulch. Another thing is, in this section right here, when I want to overwinter this area, I like to protect my soil with a mulch. I prefer using the diced leaf mulch because, for the same reasons, come spring when I need to get this bed prepped to plant, I don't have to remove every single leaf, because if a few leaves are here and I mix those leaves into the soil, they end up just being worm food, and it kind of ends up being like a good thing. One of the major exceptions to this is tomatoes. I highly prefer to use wood chips for my tomatoes, especially when it comes to my tomato trellis. Because when growing tomatoes, I put them in one spot and they stay there the whole year. Once they're in for good, because I mainly grow indeterminate tomatoes in this section. You're probably thinking, he uses wood chips for his tomatoes because the wood chips acidify the soil as they break down. Well, many studies have shown that that's actually not true, and wood chips as a mulch actually have a neutral effect on the pH. Any mild acids they create as they break down get quickly balanced by the soil. I prefer using wood chips as a mulch over leaves for my tomatoes for a few reasons. One of them is, when it comes to the wood chips, they break down much slower than the leaves. So I can put a nice thick layer of wood chips down this year, and that's all I need. I'm one and done for the whole entire year. But the main reasons I prefer wood chips for the tomatoes is because when I use wood chips, they help keep the temperature of the soil more consistent than leaves do, in my opinion. And also, the biggest thing is, I believe that the wood chips actually make the soil dry out slower than the leaves do, because the wood chips, if you come down here, they're large and they almost like mat the ground out, but not in a way where water and air can't get in. They mat the ground, but water and air could still easily get down below. This makes it so we have good, consistent moisture in the soil for these tomatoes. That is incredibly important for fruiting crops like tomatoes and peppers. When it comes to those, I highly prefer wood chips, because if we let the soil dry out too quickly for some of those crops, mainly fruiting crops, then that could cause a host of issues. The number one being blossom end rot. So when it comes down to it, the main reason I like using wood chips for my tomatoes over diced leaves is because I think that they significantly help with blossom end rot compared to leaves, just because of their ability to retain moisture and keep that soil nice and cool. Jeff Lawton would say that wood chips are good for perennials and woody species. This is because when we lay a thick layer of wood chips down, that brings in all different kind of fungi, because the fungi are what break down those wood chips. And when you're bringing a lot of wood chips in, then that makes your soil more of a fungal dominated soil, which is ideal for perennials like fruit trees and bushes. The reason for that is because bringing this mulch in brings that fungi in, and this will bring in the mycorrhizal fungi. This is a very specific kind of fungi, and it's incredible. It makes this whole huge fungal network going through all your soil, and when you have a big area mulched, through all that mulch. And plants like fruit trees can actually tap into that fungi, the mycorrhizal fungi, and get water and nutrients. On the other hand, Jeff Lawton would say that diced leaves are a great mulch for annuals, because the diced leaves create a more bacteria-dominated soil, because that's what's going to come in and break down these leaves. I think this line of thinking makes a lot of sense. I just have the one main tweak, where I think that wood chips should be used as a mulch for your fruiting crops, for things like tomatoes to prevent that blossom end rot, but also for some crops like cucumbers, because with uneven watering, the cucumbers can get all deformed, and that's a little bit annoying. So using wood chips will help us get that consistent level of moisture to keep those plants happy. When it comes to some of your other annuals like lettuce or cabbage, a little bit of inconsistent watering won't make as big of a difference for them, because they don't have a fruit. We're just growing it for the leaves, and when it comes down to it, that inconsistent watering just doesn't have much of an adverse effect. Ultimately, natural free resources like wood chips and leaves are some of the greatest tools for backyard gardeners like me because they're free and accessible for most people. When it comes to the leaves, what I do is in the fall, I'll let all my neighbors rake up all their leaves, put them in bags, and then I'll go around and just pick up a bunch of the bags of leaves. Then I'll bring them to the house, store them over the winter. Come spring, I'll just rip the bags open, drop them on the lawn, and then go over them with the lawnmower to dice those leaves up. Now I have a free mulch that works fantastic. When it comes to the wood chips, I just call local tree companies and tell them I'm looking for some wood chips, and they're happy to get rid of them for free. When it comes down to it, it's not really the wood chips that are the problem in the garden, it's more the method. Before I let you go, I want to just go over some frequently asked questions because I've made a video about wood chips before, and here's some of the questions that people are always wanting to know. I'll grab my phone for this to make sure I don't miss any. So the first one is one we went over. Do wood chips acidify the soil? No, they won't acidify the soil. Overall, they have a very neutral effect on pH, like we talked about earlier. Another one is, do wood chips attract termites? The answer is no. Termites like dry wood. When it comes to your wood chips and you're using it as a mulch, this stuff acts like a sponge, so it's like always wet. This isn't the kind of stuff that termites are going to want at all. Another question is it a fire hazard to use wood chips? Well, no, because they're like a sponge. They're wet. As they break down, they get more porous, they get more spongy, and I mean, it would probably be hard to start a fire in some damp wood chips that are super, super spongy. A question I get from a lot of people are all wood chips safe? For the most part, when you're layering, all natural wood chips are safe. There's one or two you need to be a little bit hesitant with. One of them would be cedar wood chips. So cedar wood chips are fine for things like your perennials and your mature plants, but they could potentially have a little bit of an adverse effect on your young seedlings that are just sprouting because they're just so sensitive. So when it comes to young seedlings, just make sure you're not using something like that cedar mulch. Another one where you have to be careful about, it's like the only kind of plant would be the black walnut. Black walnut has this thing in it called juglones, and it's basically makes it so plants can't grow. That's essentially what it does. It can cause plants to not be able to grow at all. That's why when there's black walnuts trees growing, there's rarely other plants growing around it. So if you get black walnut wood chips, just make sure that you probably want to let those sit and compost down for like 6 potentially to 12 months before you use them in your garden, especially on those young sensitive plants. Overall though, those are like the only trees I would ever be hesitant about when it comes to wood chips. Pine wood chips are fantastic. I use them all the time. I mean, I'll get a pine tree cut down with the needles and the leaves and use that as a mulch in my garden, and it smothers the weeds. It works fantastic, and I have no adverse effects from it. Plus, I've been putting wood chips in this garden for, over 10 years without a doubt. This main garden here. We can dig into the soil in a second. Another one would be, what's the best depth for the wood chips? So when it comes to wood chips and you're growing annuals, about 2 to 4 inches is ideal. It doesn't need to be that much deeper. But when you're growing things like perennials, you want to put like 6 inches down, because the wood chips, if you put like 2 inches or 3 inches down, they'll break down in about a year or two. If you really stack the wood chips 6 inches, then you might only have to come out and re-wood chip like 3 years later or something. It makes it really convenient and easy to do. And people often ask, should I remove the wood chips at the end of the year? No, you want to just keep layering. This layering effect has an accumulated effect over the years where it just helps build that soil structure immensely. If we come down here, I bet over the last 10 years, if I was to show how much wood chips I put in, it would probably be like this high of wood chips. Realistically, I mean, over 10 years, 6 inches every year would be insane, but look how much it's condensed down into nothing. As this breaks down into humus, it looks just like dirt almost. So look at this soil here. It's unbelievable. Look at this, as they keep going. This is 10 years of wood chips. Look at the humus mixed into that dirt. Look how it holds its shape. This is what happens when you use wood chips for a long time. You let the humus and the humic acid break it down. Whether you have sandy soil or whether you have clay soil, it doesn't matter. The solution and secret ingredient to heal any soil is humic acid. That's just a result of these natural things breaking down through natural causes like fungi or worms. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you truly got something out of it. I wanted to hone in on mulch a little bit because I know that there's a little bit of confusion when it comes down to it. And people don't know exactly how I use my mulch in my garden. One of the big gripes that I had with the back to Eden method was I didn't think that it was clear on how you use wood chips in the garden. So Paul would talk about using wood chips for his perennials, but then he wouldn't talk about how he really uses a bacteria dominated soil and doesn't use wood chips for most of his annuals. For most of his annuals, he would take all the leftover scraps from foods, he would throw that in his chicken pen, the chickens would mix it all up, turn it into a compost. He would then take that composted chicken manure and scraps, bring that into his annual garden and use that to grow. So he was really growing in a bacteria dominated soil built by annuals like leaves and from plants, and then it was his fruit trees that were in wood chips in a fungal dominated soil. That's the reality of the situation, in my opinion, how I see it. So I just want to clarify the best way to use mulches in your garden to make sure you get the best result. That's what it's all about. I had a blast out here. I want to send a thank you to one of our new channel members, Terry Olson. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing out here. I also want to mention that we're still doing the Team Water, Team Grow collab. So if you grab one of these shirts right here, then you will be helping 10 people get clean drinking water for a whole year. With just one shirt, you can make a massive difference. I also want to mention to check out any of the merch over at Team Grow, because everything you buy, it's gonna go to helping other people. I mean, what's better than that? Check out our community too at teamgrow.us, because right now we're giving away 4 more free irrigation kits. Over this next month, we will be giving away 4 more irrigation kits over $100 value. All you gotta do is go on the community, make a post, say what's up, show your garden, represent, and you might win a free irrigation kit. Had a blast out here. Garden's looking great. We'll be back to you with another one. Actually, next video, I have a really exciting one. You guys gotta subscribe right now, because the next video coming up is about to be something you've never seen before. We'll catch you again real soon. We out.